Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to a Power Rangers deck building game unboxing component. This is for the second standalone slash expansion for Zeo Stronger Than Before. So you can check out the other video for the base set, which follows the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This follows the second team, the Zeo Rangers. And it's 100% standalone. You can buy this, play this by itself, or you can buy the Mighty Morphin, play that by itself. If you buy both, you can mix and match the sets together to create some different things. They are eventually releasing other expansions that aren't going to be standalone that will require one of the two base games. But I think they just kind of wanted to be like, hey, here's a bunch more extra content. The core of each game plays exactly the same. I'm not going to spend a ton of time in this video going over how it's played. If you want a little bit more, I probably explain it a little bit more in depth in the other videos, so go check that one out. But the general concept is, if you've never played a deck building game, is that each player starts out with the same, generally start with the same identical type of hand. You have basic cards. It's usually like gain 1 power, do 1 damage, things like that. And then you buy new cards to make your deck better. So then, as the game goes on, each player's deck generally becomes more and more diverse. This one even more so than other deck building games, because the two big things that set this apart from lots of deck building games is that this is a versus game. And not saying there isn't competitive modes in other deck building games. Marvel Legendary I do a lot of videos on. Or DC, where you have semi-cooperative. You work together, but you try and get victory points at the end. You can see who wins. Or if you play something more like Dominion, or even like something like Ascension, where you have a card pool and you're playing like against each other to try and get the most points. And maybe you're playing cards that like attack or hit the other players, but in the end you're still kind of like, you're not really working maybe as a team, but you're not really versus. This one is straight up versus. You have hit points. You keep track of it. You're trying to deplete your opponent's hit points. One person plays as the ranger. You can actually play 2 versus 2 if you'd like, but one team is the rangers, ones are the villains. So that definitely makes it a little bit more interesting. Another interesting aspect of this that's a little bit different is you start with a hero card and you play cards on them. So if you want to use this, most deck building games, you play a card. Either you get every effect. You usually get every effect on the card when you play it. And this one instead, you play it and you gain the. So, like, here's an example. If you're playing this Cogs, so if you play it, you can either play it for these abilities or this ability, but you get one or the other. Either you can play it and you can generate shards, shards or energy. Shards are basically your currency, which you use to buy cards. And energy lets you use it for spending cards on abilities. But then you do is you attach these to your hero card or your character card, hero or villain, and then you can just use them towards those abilities. So it's kind of an upgrade system. So as you go through, not only you're upgrading your deck, you're also upgrading your character, and you're getting other cards to generally just make the game better. So an idea here, just showing off, like, you get your various different cards side to side, deck, and you share one timeline. What's also neat is because there are hero and villain cards that go in the middle, and then there's more generic cards like equipment, maneuvers, locations, stuff like that. But during your turn, at the end of your turn, if you're playing a ranger or a hero, and there's any villain cards in the lineup, you take damage. And then vice versa. On the villain's turn, if there's any hero cards in the lineup, they take damage. So you kind of not only got to focus on taking out your opponent's main character, you also got to keep cards out of the lineup so you're not taking a ton of damage every turn. Plus, it limits what they can purchase and do. Yes, it's kind of it's a very interesting, different game, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about each type of card when we get through there. There's Zords, there's master abilities, there's all this other stuff. But yeah, you can mix and match this with the other base set. And basically, it says if you're gonna do that, it says take one type of card from each deck. I mean, you can try and mix and match it however you want, but they say the quick way to do it is if I take the equipment card from the Mighty Morphin set and want to have those, I should take the equipment out of this deck. That way your deck sizes stay the same and they stay roughly the same amount. So that's even, because you don't want to, oh, I'm going to take all the equipment out, and then like one of your characters needs equipment to play. So, alright, not the best explanation. But again, I said check out the original video. It has more of an explanation on how the game is played. I'm just going to kind of jump in and look at some of the components and that. So, to start off, we get two different health counters and energy counters. One for the heroes, one for the villains. So, dials here just keeps track of your health. So, you can get up to 30 health. And then up here keeps track of energy. So as you earn energy, you just store it up to 20. Then you can spend it when you need it. So on a typical card, let me grab a typical card here. So if we look at this hero card, we earn 1 shard and we earn 3 energy. So shards are stuff that you earn that you have to use immediately. They're kind of like, during this turn, I've earned 1 shard. I can spend it to use to buy other cards. You earn 3 for the energy, which then you can later spend on these 4 costs down here or other abilities that you get. So it's kind of a neat ebb and flow way of playing. So before we jump into all of those types of cards, we're going to look at the character cards first. And I think at some point I will do a video kind of comparing the two sets, the Zeo and the Mighty Morphin, just to see how the different characters work. So we're going to start off with all the Rangers, at least so far, have a teenager side, and you flip them over, and they're going to have a Ranger side, which is more powerful. This is part of your upgrade, which is a really cool mechanic. The other things to note is on the card, you're going to have these borders. So you have yellow borders, which are hero cards. So when you're playing cards, you can attach them to the sides. And then now you can use this bonus in that box. And that's what I meant by attaching. You're going to have villain cards, which are purple. So heroes only, Rangers only use the hero cards. Villains only use the villain cards. Typically, there are some cards in this set that go away from that. You're going to have equipment, which are gray cards, which match the bottom of hers. And you're going to also have, if I can find one, you're going to have maneuver cards, which are blue, which will match the top up here. The last main type of card you're going to have are locations. Which locations stay in play. There are other types of starter cards or some signature cards and that, and we'll get into those in a minute. So let's just read over the character card quick. So you have Cat Hillard, and it says, so all the Rangers are going to say, when all 4 slots are filled, attach your Zord to the Zord Bay and flip this card. So you got to bounce between having cards in your hand you can use to buy more cards or do damage to other cards, versus playing them on here for the effect. Ideally, you eventually want to get 4 cards and play them, but if you spend too early in the game putting all your cards on your character here, you're going to have less cards in your hand to do stuff. So you might have to spend a couple, so you got to build up over a couple of turns. You don't want to be like turn 2, have all 4 of these filled, flip to a Ranger, but not be able to do any damage. But yeah, this is a way you can upgrade. But it says when you attach a hero, draw a card. So she gets 2 different times she can attach different heroes, draw extra cards. When she flips over, she becomes Zeo Ranger 1, pink. And she has a thing that says -2 energy to activate attack cards. And you can pay 6 attack. For each hero you have attacked, deal 3 damage. +2 if that hero is a villain. So there's some ways to get villain cards on her, and then she does more damage. But now this is where you have to have your energy saved up. Cheaper to play them on her to upgrade them, because there are ways to like discard cards off of your character and add new ones on, or just reattach new ones, so you're not stuck with the first 4 you play. Alright, up next we have Tanya Sloan. When you battle a villain in the grid, draw 1 card and gain 1 energy. So hers is about battling some villains. You can see she has 2 maneuvers instead of 2 heroes. And she becomes the Zeal Ranger 2, yellow. When you battle a villain in the grid, gain the reward in additional time, then draw 1 card. And the reward is the little part on the bottom here. So if a villain beats this card, you get to draw an extra card. We have Rocky DeSantos. When you attach equipment, which are the black ones on the top and the bottom, attack. Stun. Target foe gains one stun. And stuns are, we'll go through them. They're basically useless cards. Clog up your deck, make it harder to play. She becomes Zeal Ranger 3, blue. During your main phase, you may detach exhaust equipment to gain 2 energy for each equipment you detach. So you can he can chuck off his equipment off his card to gain extra ability to do stuff. Adam Park. When you attach a maneuver, which are the blue ones, deal 2 damage. And then Zeal Ranger 4, green. During your main phase, you may detach exhaust maneuvers, gain 2 energy. And you notice that the green and blue have very similar abilities. And in this series, they're really like tag teaming partners, essentially. They do a lot of stuff together. A lot of their cards, like even if you go to the Power Rangers, not deck building game, the miniatures game, the other card game, their Zeal cards are the same thing. They have lots of things where they complement each other very well. Then we have Tommy Oliver. When you attack, battle, or block, gain 1 energy. So these guys are all about pumping up some energies, getting extra cards. So we have Zeal Ranger 5, red. So block, negating attack. They then lose 1 HP. The attacker must detach 1 card of their choice to the end of the turn. So he's going to take the hit, or take at least some of the hit from blocking. But he's going to make them detach a card, which is going to make them hurt more. So they kind of got, do I attack him? Do I not? And then finally, we have Jason Lee Scott. Who says at the start of your turn, lose 1 HP and draw 1 card. So every turn, he's going to take damage, but he's going to get an extra card. And then we flip him over, he becomes the 6th Ranger, the Gold Zeal Ranger. So at the start of your turn, lose 2 HP and draw 1 card. Attack, deal 3 damage. If your HP is at 15 or less, instead deal 6. And it's supposed to I guess it's supposed to simulate like the Zeal power is like it's that much powerful, or maybe it's not custom to him because it's not meant for a human. It was originally an alien being called Trey of Triforia who had it. Just kind of why he's sort of taking damage, but he's also really powerful. Also, the show part is on the outside, it says all rainbow colors. He can attack any colored card to it. So he's basically the most versatile, but he's always going to be taking damage. So you gotta really bounce your health out. Alright, so those are our Rangers. Let's look at our villains quick. So we have King Mondo. Now, villains only have 3 sides. Their bottom one is an orange one, which says attach King Mondo when gained. So they have special signature cards that have to be attached to that particular spot. But they have a scheming side. And the same thing, When all 4 slots are filled, draw 1 card and flip this card. And they work differently the way their overall mechanics work as well. When you pay 1 or less, when you pay 1 less to buy your own master card, which is the card that goes on the bottom. So then he has his empowered version, which is Angry King Mono, which I'm not sure why they added Angry to it. But it says all your attacks this turn deal +1 damage for each master in the lair. We have Louis Kaboom. At the start of the first turn, the game draw 3 additional cards. And then he has an attack, destroy 1 master in the lair to deal 9 damage. So it's kind of an interesting one. He starts off more powerful, but he doesn't gain a consistent effect. And we have Prince Gasket. These are all part of the Machine Empire, in case you're not familiar with Zeo. Most people are from like Rita and Zed and Golgar. That's the Mighty Morphin Rangers. At the start of your turn, gain 1 stun and draw 1 card. And then when we empower him, he gets deal 1 damage to each. Deal 1 damage plus 1 damage for each stun in your hand and discard pile. So he gains stuns to kind of hurt him, but he gains extra damage for it. His counterpart is Princess Archerina. Says when you attack a villain, draw a card. And for each villain you have attacked, deal 3 damage. Plus 2 damage if that villain is a hero type. She's almost the opposite of the Pink Ranger. We have Queen Machina. Lose 3 HP at any time a villain is battled in the grid. You start the game with your signature item attached. It's a different mechanic, because she gets to start with an extra card right away. But every time a villain's attacked, she's going to lose 3 HP. So you're kind of constantly, again, battling that health. And then you flip her over though, she only loses 2 HP anytime a villain, but you can block to negate attack and then lose 1 HP. And then finally we have Clank. Gain 1 random location from the main deck at the start of the game, which is massively powerful. Locations are high cost cards, they have ongoing abilities, so the fact that you just to start with one is pretty awesome. And it says attack. Deal 1 damage if this attack is not blocked. Gain 1 equipment from the grid at no cost. Alright, so those are our villains. Now let's jump in and look at some cards. So let's look at our starting cards really quick. So we're going to have a bunch of the teamwork cards for the heroes. There's a stack of them, because you have enough for each player. And all they do is they provide 1 energy shard. And now the villains get the same idea, and this is where you get the same starting hands, but the villains get different named ones. So instead they get Mayhem. It's kind of a neat thing. They could have just came up with a generic term for both cards and gave them to whoever, but I like the fact that the heroes have 1 version and the bad guys have another one. Also to add on to the fact is, at least for right now, the Mighty Morphin and the Zeo Rangers, heroes and villains, have different cards as well. So that way, if you're playing as one person's playing as a Zeo Ranger, one's playing as a Mighty Morphin, you don't even have the same name starter cards. Then there's going to be 2 copies of each of these other cards, because what it'll be is this is enough cards to make 2 different decks if you're playing 2 and 2. So I mean, you could potentially, if you buy the Mighty Morphin and this, you could play 4 Rangers versus 4 Rangers, or 4 villains versus 4 villains. So you have 2 copies of the Zeonizer, which give you 3 energy. 2 copies of the Scraps for the villains, which give you 3 energy. Rangers get Regroup. Heal 1. If you have 20 or fewer HP, you may destroy a card in your hand or discard pile. And then the villains get Reconstruct. Heal 1. If you have 20 or fewer HP, you may destroy 1 card in your hand. So everyone starts with 1 heal, so you can take some damage early on, knowing that you have at least a heal ability. Also, the fact you can destroy stuff helps you destroy stun cards, which are bad. Or later on, if you don't really need to worry about healing, and you've taken some damage, of course, you're not like sitting at super full health, you can start destroying some of these other starter cards, like this Mayhem or the Zeonizer or whatever, to use your more powerful cards more often. And I love the fact that the game starts with cards that let you destroy it. That has always been my issue with like Marvel Legendary, is that there's no consistent way to destroy easy cards or your starting hand, but you need to. It's part of the game. You need to be able to get rid of those. So I love that this game includes that as a base card, even if it's only one card. And then the heroes get resilience, and the villains get smashing. It says, next time you battle this turn, draw 2 cards. So it just helps you get some extra cards in your hand. So that way you're also cycling through your deck quicker. Which is, again, a really neat effect to have. Because that way, I bought 2 new cards, now I have to wait 2 more... As the way deck builders work is you buy your cards on your first turn, and usually you buy cards on your second turn, and then by your third turn you've had to shuffle your deck. This lets you automatically, so the first turn you can buy cards, you could potentially draw 2 more cards, so on your second turn, you're already going to probably be having to shuffle your discard pile and make a new deck, and you could probably potentially buy, or draw one of them cards you bought. Then by your third turn, you're definitely going to be able to get potentially cards in your first 2 turns. Where most deck building games, they don't give you options to draw cards right away. So you literally have to play 2 full turns of just starting cards. Which is why I usually play them games. Like, again, I'm going to go back to Marvel Legendary because it's what I'm more familiar with. I usually play like a free round at least. If not free 2 rounds, or I add an extra card in everyone's starting hand from outside the game that says, hey, you get to draw a card. Because then at least you're feeding into your deck right away. So this game made a lot of improvements on that. So there's going to be a pile of stun cards. These just sit off to the side. Something will add it in there. So it says, if you heal 2+ HP this turn, return this to the stun stack. Otherwise, when you draw your hand of 5 cards, you're just going to have a useless card in your hand. That's what stun cards do. Then we also have a stack of Zeal Blasters, which is also always available to everybody to buy. Costs 2 energy, provides 2 shards, so it's a little bit better than your starting card. But the thing is, anytime during your turn, you may destroy this card. If you do, discard 1 non-adversary card from the grid and refill the grid. So what this lets you do is either I can buy this to replace one of my starting cards. So I could buy this to replace Mayhem, so now I'm always going to get 2 instead of 1. Or I can spend it to just destroy it, and I can get rid of a card that I can... Oh, maybe there's a high cost 5 card I can't buy. Get rid of it. I can see what else is in the... Replaces it, something different to buy. Or maybe there's a cheap 2 cost card. Be like, I really... This late in the game, I don't need a 2 cost card. And you can get rid of it. Plus, also the fact is, when you destroy this, it gets it out of your hand. So if, like, later in the game, buy these early on, get some extra shards, but then later in the game, destroy it, and that's 1 less card in your deck you have to deal with. Alright, so let's start with our hero cards. So, except for locations, there's always going to be 2 of every card. Locations, signature items, and Zords, which I'll go over them separately. So I'm not going to sit here and keep saying there's 2 of this, 2 of this. There's just always 2 of each of these cards. So here are our heroes. We have Auric the Conqueror. And I'm not going to read off all the costs and all that. You can see those. But it's going to say block, negating attack. If the attack was made by a villain, gain a battle reward from the card, and then discard this card. So you block it, and you get gain one of their special abilities, which is kind of neat. We have Billy Cranston, the original Blue Ranger, because when they became the Zeal Rangers, he didn't become a Ranger. He didn't go from being Mighty Morphin to Zeal. He stayed kind of on the sidelines and helped out. So he's just a regular hero. So just put one equipment from your discard pile in your hand. But you also notice he has no defeat effect, which is kind of interesting. So our other heroes, we're going to get the Zeo Pink Ranger. Using attack or block ability of any villain in the grid. If there are no villains in the grid, discard 2 cards from the grid. So she gains the abilities of them characters. Becomes pretty powerful. The Yellow Zeo. Deal damage equal to the cost of an adversary you battle this turn. We have a Blue Ranger. So now, just as a reminder, when I buy this card, I buy it for 4. And then when it's in my hand, I can start playing it. I play it for 2 shards or 5 energy. Or, if I've attached it to my hero, my character card, then I can spend 5 energy to do the effect. So it's either I can do this, or I attach it, and then I can do this instead. But it's one or the other. Once you've attached it, you can no longer gain your abilities. It's just kind of a back and forth. And at the bottom, it takes 3 damage to destroy this, so I can spend these points to try and destroy this for 3. And if I do, if I'm a villain character, target foe discards the attached cards. So if you're purchasing it, it's 4. If you're destroying it, it's 3. Alright, so then heal 4 and then discard this card. Alright, Green Ranger. Block. Destroy 1 card in your hand and negate an attack. Gain energy equal to the destroyed card's cost. Draw 2 cards and then discard this card. Zeo Red. Choose an attack card. Or attack. Choose a card attached to the target foe's character. Place it on top of their deck. I guess that's like a heal ability. And then finally we have the Gold Ranger, but this is the Tray of Triforia version. Block, take all damage as normal. Choose 1 villain card controlled by a foe or in the grid. Destroy it, and draw 1 card and discard this card. So those are our heroes that we get a gain. Now let's look at our villains. The Cogs, which are like the putties of this game. The simple minions. Attack. Deal 2 damage and draw 1 card. And we're going to get some of these interesting monsters. So we have Deflector. When gained, attach this card to an empty slot on a character. On any character, at the start of your turn, lose 1 HP, can only be attached by battling. This is where you can put a villain on another player. And does extra damage to him every turn. Mecha Caterpillar. I'm not sure. Block. Gain 1 stun to negating attack. Draw a card, then discard this card. Robo Cupid. Use the attack or block of any hero in the grid. If there are no heroes in the grid, discard 2 cards. So you're going to see a lot of this where there's a hero has one effect, a villain has the opposite effect. The Impersonator. Deal 1 damage, ready an active ability of any standard Zord in play. This guy just do Zord abilities, which are really powerful. We have Silo. Just 3 attacks, each which deal 1 damage. You might be like, why doesn't it just do 3 damage? And it does it this way because you have to block each one separately, or you can choose a different target for each one. So if you have 2 players, you can be like, you take a damage, then player 2 takes damage, and you take a 3rd one. So then the guy has to block 2 different damages, or possibly 3. Cog Changer. Block. Negate an attack. If this attack was made by an equipment, the attack loses 3 HP. Then draw 1 card and discard this card. And our final villain is Prince Sprocket. Deal damage equal to the cost of equipment or maneuver attached to your character. Alright, now we're going to get some equipment cards. We have Computer Passer with the good old floppy disk. Deal Deal 2 damage and destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile. Now, things to keep a note with cards like this is it says deal 2 damage and destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile. There's not an optional effect there. So if you play this for that attack, you have to destroy a card. So although this could be very powerful, could help you win stuff, you don't want to do it terribly often or you're going to start running out of cards. The Zeo Jet Cycles. Negate an attack. If this attack would have dealt 3+ damage, discard this card and draw 1 card. Quadra Fighters. Deal 2 damage to target foe and heal 2. Singing Zap. When gained, attach this to an empty slot on any character. At the start of your turn, lose 2 energy. It's only be detached by battling. So it messes up the slots, plus they're going to lose stuff. The Power Pod Sword. This also makes it interesting. Way this game works is so, again, you're playing a hero, you have hero starting deck. Playing a villain, you have a villain starting deck. You can gain heroes if you're a hero, and defeat villains, and vice versa. But you can't, as a hero, as a ranger, you can't gain villain cards, which makes sense. But all the rest of the cards, they have some for one class, some for that. So a villain can pick up a Power Pod Sword, for example. It's just kind of interesting just how that works. Power Pod Sword equipment deal 3 damage to target foe. They must discard 1 attached hero, villain. And place it on top of their deck. Ooh, sorry, I had a yawn there. The Defender Wheel. Deal 3 damage. If foe has a visible block, they must block this attack if able. If negated, draw 1 card. It's kind of actually cool because it forces them to waste a blocked card on this, and then you can drop something more powerful. We have Shrink Ray. Target foe discards 1 attached card, discards a card, and gains 1 stun. They must talk in a high-pitched voice until the start of their next turn. We have the ultra-powerful Zeo Cannon, deals 3 damage. So that's all of our equipment. Now let's look at some different maneuvers we can do. We're going to get, this will keep them busy. So I'm not sure if this is a hero or a villain card. Is it the heroes being like, you know, oh, this will keep them, like the villains being like, oh, all these cogs will keep the rangers busy. Or is this the rangers being like, this will keep them busy fighting us while the other heroes do something else. I'm sure it's the villain side, but it's kind of funny just to speculate. Block. Destroy 1 card in your hand and negate an attack. Draw a card and then discard this card. Then we have Just What I Needed. Destroy 1 card in your hand to pay 2 less to buy your next card in the grid this turn. So again, there's lots of stuff that lets you destroy cards, so you're going to be going through things a lot quicker. Draining Power. Reduce your opponent's energy by up to 4. You may deposit the same amount of energy. So the only reason it's odd it just says up to 4, because why wouldn't you always do 4? Because you can only have a max of 20 energy. So if you're at 19, you can only drain 1 energy from them, regardless. You can't take 4 of theirs away and only gain 1. So you kind of want to make sure you burn your energy out a little bit before you play this one. We have Kaya, which, I just actually goes with the other artwork. Your attacks deal 1 damage, plus 1 damage this turn. I just noticed this. So I love it when cards do this in games. So it's not exact, but it's essentially like that. They make 1 full artwork piece. I love cards that combine together to make full artwork. We have Zed's Vengeance. He gets 1 last attack in here. Ready and activate the ability of any standard Zord in play for no cost. We have the Power of Zeal. Block, negating attack, heal 2. Then draw and discard this card. We have Let's See You Stop This. Attack, your next attack cannot be blocked. And finally, our last maneuver is the Ultimate Sacrifice. Destroy one card you control to deal damage equal to its cost. Alright, then we're going to have some locations. So there's only one of each of these locations. But once you purchase them, you put it into play and you get this ongoing effect. So you have a Power Chamber. So this is the good guy's base, Zeal base. Ongoing at the start of your turn, you gain 3 energy. Sky Machine base for the bad guys. Ongoing, at the start of your turn, you may destroy one card in your hand or one card in your discard pile to heal 2. You can destroy your stuns, so this works for characters that get stuns. We have the Mobile Base RV. You may put the first card you buy or gain each turn on top of your deck. Ernie's Beach Club. At the start of your turn, if there is a hero in the grid, draw one card. Angel Grove Falls. When you pay 1 less to buy cards from the grid. The Machine Arena. At the start of your turn, if there's a villain in the grid, draw one card. Okay, so there's only a couple of them there. But now, that one villain, Clanker, starts with one location at the beginning of the game. So now imagine getting to start with the ability to draw an extra card, or have everything cost less, or cards you buy start on the top of your deck at the beginning of the game. That can be pretty darn powerful. Alright, then we're going to have signature items. Signature items are cards for each character specifically can only buy. So, you're only going to include this, have this set aside if you're playing this particular character. And it's a really neat aspect of, like, making the characters feel a little bit more unique. So we're going to have for the Reg, so Battle Zeal Sword Reg. And now it just says Red being Red Ranger, so you can interpret this as only Zeal Ranger or only a Red Ranger. So I guess you could, if you want to mix with the base game, you could argue I can use this for either of my Red Rangers. And that's up to you if that's how you want to play it. Again, it's your game, play it however you want. The rules, I would say Zeal, Morphing, but they just specify a color. So you have Zeal Battle Sword. It says signature item, when gained, attached to any color slot. So when you buy these, you can attach them wherever you want on your character. So you gotta kind of figure out what works best or what you need to fill up. So if I'm playing, I'm playing my Zeal Red, my Tommy. It says all 4 are filled up. So like him, it doesn't really matter as much. Even his alternate side, it doesn't really make as much difference. Because he can use either using equipment, a maneuver, or heroes. But if you're using someone like, just as an example, the Green Ranger, you may detach exhausted maneuvers. So you probably don't want to put your signature weapon on either of your maneuvers abilities because you wouldn't be able to exhaust them and use them. So depending on what ranger it is or what villain it is, the spots you put them might make a difference. But the Rangers getting that flexibility of being able to put them wherever they want on their card to fill in whatever slot they need. Anyhow, it says, deal 3 damage to target foe, +1 for each empty slot on their character card. We have the Golden Power Staff for the Gold Ranger. Deal 4 damage and discard this card. Blue Ranger gets the Power Axes. You can argue why those are considered axes if you want. Deal 3 damage or attack deal 1 damage for each equipment you activated this turn. And he has the ability to discard his exhausted cards. So basically you can exhaust them, discard them, get new ones in there to activate them, so you can do this more often. Yellow Ranger has double power clubs, also known as nunchucks. Destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile to battle a villain in the grid at no cost. Pink Ranger gets her power disc. Discard this card to gain a villain from the grid and attach it. The villain is a hero until detached, which sends it to the main deck and discard pile, which works with her special ability. And the Green Ranger gets his hatchets. Deal 3 damage or deal 1 for each maneuver you activated this turn. So just like the Blue Rangers. So those are the signature abilities of the Rangers. Now let's get the villains. King Mondo is going to gain the Damocles Sword. Which is when gained attached to any slot. So again, same thing, you can attach these wherever you need to. Deal 7 damage. If negated, you lose 3 HP. So you can do an all-out attack, but if stopped, it's going to hurt him. Kablooey. Destroy 1 villain you control to deal 6 damage. You might ask why Louis Kabloom's abilities destroy other villains. He's not generally part of the Machine Empire with King Mondo and Queen Machina and Gasket and Archerina. He's like a side villain that's kind of like there, and he's sort of helping them, but he's not part of their group. You could kind of think of it in terms of like, he's sort of like, I'm helping you, but if I can step on you guys to gain my own victories, I will. So we have, for Prince Gasket, we have Dazzling Rapier. Destroy 1 stun in your hand to deal 5 damage. Prince Archerina has Love Arrows. Discard this card to gain 1 hero from the grid. Attach it. If the hero is a villain, until detached, it sends it to the main discard pile, so the opposite of the Pink Ranger. Queen Machina, Machine Testing. So she starts with this one in play. So it says attack, deal 1 damage, +1 for each villain in the main deck discard pile. So it only gets more powerful over time. And then Clank has Orbis. Attack, deal damage equal to twice the cost of a villain you control. So pretty interesting. Alright. And then our final thing is we have a new card type called the Zeal Crystals. There's also going to have the colors with them. But yeah, this is a brand new one you can include in either set if you want. Heroes can buy it, villains can buy it. But we have Zero Subcrystal 1. Must be activated before any other card on your turn. Immediately deposit energy from the... Must be activated before any other card on your turn. Immediately deposit energy up to your maximum, then destroy this card. So basically you can refill your energy all the way up, which is actually pretty... But then it's one time and it's destroyed. These are very powerful cards with very limited effects. Not limited, but like one-time use, I believe. And you can go to any color slot, which is kind of nice. So Subcrystal 2 yellow. Spend as much energy as you like. You deal half that amount rounded down in damage, and destroy this card. Sub-Zero 3 blue. Draw 5 cards, then destroy this card. Sub-Zero 4 green. Negating attack, deal damage to the attacker equal to the damage that have been dealt by the attack. Destroy this card. And Sub-Zero 5 red. Ranger, gain a Zord. Attach it to the Zord villain. Gain a Master. Attach it to the lair. Then destroy this card. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to go over our Zords and our Masters. And before we do that, we're going to look at a couple of the other components here. So we have these tokens here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and if we flip it over, so I haven't punched them all, one fell out. The other side's the bad guy. And this is just to keep track of turn order. So if you're playing 2 players, clearly you can be like, I'm player 1, you're player 2. But if you're playing 1 versus 2, or 2 versus 2, then you can flip over to whichever side, so you know, player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. Just to keep track of it. Now, the villains layer, so they're going to play this little board on the bottom of your table, your play area, which is going to say, when you attack a master to the lair, heal 1 HP for each master you control. So the masters are special villains that each player can buy. So you buy them. If you're controlling the villain, it goes onto the villain. If you're not, it goes to the lair. So basically, if I'm playing King Mondo, I attack him and it gains him a bonus. If not, I put him on the villain's lair, and basically, the idea is the villain is recruiting more and more villains to gain more and more powerful. On the other hand, the Rangers are playing Zords to the Zord base, so they're slowly collecting their Zords instead. They sit off to the side so they can purchase them whenever they need to. They're not mixed into the decks. It's just kind of nice. You don't have to hunt down or wait for it or keep buying cards to hope your Zord pops up. But the Zords have slots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where you put the Zord cards. So like Zeo Zords would go here, somewhere here, just to keep track of them. It says when 3 Zords are attacked, exhaust all attacked Zords and then flip this side. So like other cards, instead of attaching them to your character, you play them here and then you can use their special abilities only when they're on here. But it costs nothing to attach, but it costs 1 to activate them. You can activate this Zeo Zord Bay, which says destroy 1 card in your hand to 1 card in your hand or your discard pile to ready 1 attack Zord. Otherwise, you can activate 1 Zord per turn. So when you first start off, you can drop 5 Zords on here, but if you don't flip this over, you're only going to be able to do 1 Zord at a time. So it's, not, again, it's a powering up thing. But once you get 3 of them, you can flip this over, and the Zord Bay now becomes the Red Battler Zord. So now you can activate 3 per turn. And if you spend 3 energy, ready 1 attack Zord, and then destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile for each ready Zord. So it helps you activate Zords more often. And it's an interesting way to do that. And then you'll eventually unlock the card, which is the full-on Megazord. Which I haven't looked at the Zords, we're going to jump right to the Megazord here. Who costs 5 to attack. It's not 5 power, it's 5 Zords. I have to activate 3 Zords to play him. And then I can activate 5 every turn. Or I can ready all attack Zords to deal 4 damage. So it's kind of a different way to do it. And now in the original game, it was a flip side between the 2 Zords. This time they just added it, printed it right on the board. It's kind of interesting. So before we look at the Zords, because they're the Ranger cards, let's look at the villains. Flip it around a bit. So we have King Mondo. So they're all going to have a cost of 7 with an asterisk, which is going to say down here, -2 if your teammate controls their master. So the first player that buys it is going to cost 7. If the second player, if you're playing a 2-player game, already has one, it costs 2 less. So it makes it basically like you're a little bit powerful. Now your teammate can get theirs a little bit cheaper. Just kind of nice. So he has an ongoing. If it's in the lair, you pay 1 less to buy masters. So he's going to make all these guys cheaper. Louie Kaboom. At the start of your turn, you may destroy the top card of your deck. If you do, draw 1 card and attack, deal 1 damage. So you're going to do some stuff there. Prince Gasket. At the start of your turn, you may gain a stun. If you do, draw 2 cards, then discard 1 of them. And then look, we got the artwork that goes together. So you have Prince Archerina. At the start of your turn, discard one card from the grid and replace it. Queen Machina. Any player battles a card in the grid, deal 1 damage. And we have Clank. All attacks by villains cards gain +1 damage. And now if you start getting 2 or 3 of these built up, you're going to see how much damage you're going to really do. Now the villains, though, that's what makes the villains a little bit different than the heroes. Because the villains, you get them cards, they go into the lair, they're just always active, they're ongoing. The Rangers, though, have to constantly work between buying the cards and then they can use the ability, but then it exhausts it, so then they have to spend time on exhausting, so they can only do like 1 a turn, then 3. But eventually, if they get to the Megazord, they can do all 5. They can do a ton of different cool effects. So Zord 1, again, 7, says if your teammate controls your Zord, it's -2, so it's the same idea. So Zord 1, pink. But the difference is, these abilities don't cost anything. So I can spend 1 to heal, +1 for each hero in the grid. Zord 2, yellow. Deal 2 damage, and +2 if you battled a card this turn. We got little errors on here. I'm missing the numbers. Not a big deal, but Zord 3. Gain 1 equipment from target foe's discard pile with a cost of 3 or less. Zord 4, green. Deal 1 damage, +1 damage for each maneuver you control. Zord 5, red. Block, reduce all damage you take this turn by 1. And then Zord gold, Pyramidas. Attack, deal 2 damage to target foe and destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile. So those are Zords. And they get more powerful the more you play stuff. Alright, so that's all we have for this game. I said at some point I'll do a video comparing the 2 different sets. But before we end this video, we have the bonus box to the promos. So if you pre-ordered this, you get the bonus box number 2, because the first one was the White Ranger set for the morphing. This one actually is going to be a bad guy, which is kind of neat. They did 1 for each. Then also, you can, if you're like, oh crap, I didn't pre-order this, you can still order this currently through the Renegade website. They're really good about that, the Power Ranger and their other game content. They have stuff that are like promos or exclusives. Usually you get for free when you pre-order. But if you still want it after the fact, you just can spend extra money and buy it separately. Even their Kickstarter content is available on their website for games. Their Kickstarter, which is really cool. But I want to go through this box so you can see whether or not you think it's worth your money. I don't know how much it is. I'm going to say somewhere between $5 to $10 for this box, probably. So one thing you're going to get out of this is you're going to get 2 more health token things. So I love the fact that it's like the combined art, which is really cool. The backs are the same. But also it's kind of neat because in that way, now if you're playing 4 players, each person can have their own counter. Now being the fact is, if you bought the Mighty Morphin, you'd already have 2, and if you bought the promo box for it as well, you already have 4, so now you'd have 8 total. So you at least have some different variety to use. And then we're going to get this big old tiny pack. You might ask why the box is so big. I'm assuming the box is big because it equals to the same height as the other game. Just that way you can kind of stack it next to each other or they ship easier. I'm not sure. Alright, so we're going to get a new villain to play as, which is really fun. So, General Vengeance, who is referenced a lot as being like an evil Beetleborg, if you remember that old cartoon. Not cartoon, live action show, which is came after the Power Rangers. But that's always based on the Beetleborg type characters. Otherwise, he works the same as the other villains. Discard 1 card from your hand to gain 1 shard. And then if we empower him, he's going to block, negate an attack, then lose HP equal to half the total damage of that attack rounded down. So you can block, but it's not very good block because you're gonna take damage anyhow. But that's alright. Alright, so let's look at his special. So we have his Master card. It says ongoing once per turn when an ability is damaged by an attack, deal 1 damage. So that's one thing. If you have him in there, he's going to take block, but he's still going to take some of that damage anyhow. Then this can kick in and you can automatically do extra damage. So if you were going to take 2 damage, you'd only take 1, but now you're going to do 1 damage anyhow. And then his signature item is the Shadow Claw. Deal 2 damage, plus 2 damage for each Serpentina section purchased. So now this is the only one I find kind of odd. So every other character in the game might require, like, you might need to have, like, oh, I need a hero card, or a villain card, an equipment card, a specific type of card. Even the ones that involve Zords, they're like, it might not be really helpful, like, very early on, because a character might not have a Zord card out, but eventually they will have Zords out, and it'll be better. But none of them reference specific cards. Until now. So now we're going to have these Serpentina cards. But the thing is, though, they stay out. These are specifically for General Vengeance. They don't go in the deck. You just gotta purchase these all separately, which is kind of neat as well. So there's Serpenta Tail. This is when gameplay is based up near your character. So we have the tail. We have the head. This is giant ash dragon. And then we have the scales, which goes in the middle. They each have their own different costs. The signature section says pay 5 when you control all 3 Serpentina sections, attack, deal 30 damage. So basically the whole idea of the Vengeance is you're gonna try and build Serpentina. That is your main goal. You can do this that's why his ability, he gains an extra shard by discarding cards and stuff like that. I don't know if I can get this let's try this. Dump this box out. Let's see if I can stack these up like this. So yeah, we're gonna make giant Serpentina, but he costs 8, 9, and 10 to buy. And you don't get any bonuses from him until you buy all 3 of them. And it says 2 damage plus 2 for each Serpentina section. So in this case it only does 2, but then you get 1, it does 4, you get 2, it does 6. If you get all 3, it'll do 8 damage. But by the time you get all 3, you're just going to attack and do 30. The max number of health you can have is 30. So every turn he can pay 5 to do this. He can just basically do a one-shot kill on you. And there's very little ways to probably get rid of this. Because it's not attached to him at all. And then plus his ability, pay 1 to discard to gain a shard. So you could discard a bunch of stuff to gain some extra shards really quick too. You need help pay for that. Well, shards aren't energy. But, you know, you can get your energy up quicker. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting mechanic. I'm not going to say it's not bad. It makes him a little bit unique to play. I hope they don't do that terribly often, though. I don't want a bunch of stuff where I have to constantly, like, the main gimmick of a character is relying on specific cards. It's definitely a neat idea. Useful once in a while, but don't want it to become a main thing. Alright, that's our Power Ranger deck building game. Zeo, stronger than before. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check out the other ones. Then they have announced a first actual expansion, not standalone, which is Rangers United. It's not Rangers United. It's the Omega Rangers. So it's going to involve the Omega Rangers, which are one of the more current incarnations of the Rangers are in space. It's convoluted. Not going to go into it right now. Some of the old Rangers, they are now Rangers, are in space, but it adds a new element to everything. Hopefully they keep making more content for this game. The only issue is because you sort of need a hero and a villain side, is that it's going to be hard. Interesting to see how they release packs, because every Ranger team always has 5 characters, 5 Rangers generally, and then you can come up with the 5 villains. So how they're going to keep releasing expansions are interesting. There are a few teams that have less, like Dino Thunder originally only has 3, Beast Morphers originally only has 3. They do gain more members, but I feel like most of these you're just going to have to release big box sets, and you can maybe release the extra ones as extra characters. I just hope they don't do this one like they did the regular Power Ranger card game they did, where the teams get split up a little bit here and there, like the 6th Ranger. If they get like a 6th Ranger pack, that's one thing, but we'll see what happens. This is only the 2nd game that came out, and they have a 3rd one. So see if they want to keep trying to go through every team or not. They can keep coming up with enough different ways to do 20-some different teams. Alright, see you guys in the next video. Bye.